Interstellar. I think that both Colin and I really enjoyed this movie. We're just going to start off with our first impressions and what we thought overall. I feel like it's safe to say, for me at least, that this might be my favorite movie of all time. I think Christopher Nolan did a very fantastic job directing this movie. What did you think, Colin? Did you like it or did you not like it?
I think a lot of people will be quick to judge because they don't like Matthew McConaughey, but he does a really good job in this movie. He plays Cooper really well. And I always love space movies, so I loved Apollo 13, and I've always loved them. So I think that it's a great movie, and if you like space and you like science and you like, I don't know, if you like mind benders, it's going to be a really good movie for you. So
yeah, this movie can definitely be kind of confusing at times. I felt like most people would say that this is a kind of a paradox, especially the ending of the movie doesn't really make any sense. And some people might be quick to criticize the movie for that, but I feel like the open-endedness of the final stages of the movie kind of helps to keep you thinking about it, which if a director can get you to ponder over the last scenes of his movie for hours or days even after you've seen it, I think that's pretty impressive. As far as Matthew McConaughey's performance, I thought he did a fantastic job as well. He really was able to bring the connection between his daughter Murphy to light in the movie, and it was really emotional, and it was able to bring in the audience as something to grab hold and grab onto, as something that humans can really touch to, because this movie is kind of out there, I guess you could say. So it was a really good touching point for his viewers to be able to relate to such a outlandish, or I guess crazy scene.
I think you can tell that since it's such a crazy and confusing movie, I mean, it's so good that it makes you literally research stuff when you're done with it. I found myself looking up a ton of stuff, what was the black hole thing, and what was the fifth dimension, all these crazy concepts that are in the movie. So I don't know, it was truly one of the most interesting movies I've ever seen. Probably one of the best movies I've ever seen too, to be honest.
Yeah, I found it really interesting how Christopher Nolan explored the whole realm of relativity and time and space, which a lot of people can find really interesting because it's the unknown, and it pushes us to expand our knowledge. I read something about how he actually worked with a professor from Harvard, and so everything in this movie may not be true, or that it could happen, but it hasn't been proved scientifically that it couldn't happen. So that's kind of a interesting note to take in, because we really don't know that much about the universe, because it's so vast and it's always expanding, and there's so much for us to learn. So I really liked how he kind of showed the world how much there is to understand about what's around us.
And the parts that really confuse me, they go through the black hole and it's they skip forward, what was it, 20 years or something?
Yeah.
And they were stuck on that planet for what was it, 20, a few minutes, and they're oh, we just lost about 20 years right there.
So they were
crazy.
I believe they were on the planet for maybe 3 hours or a few hours, and that translated to 23 years back home. So his daughter was basically the same age as him by the time he touched down to that planet and came back up. And I found that scene where he was watching the video from his daughter when she was finally turned his age, and she said that he would have returned by then. And Matthew McConaughey starts crying, and I felt like that was just a really harmonizing and emotional scene, and one of the standouts in this entire movie. And there's so many great scenes. If I had to pick a favorite part from this movie, I'd probably say the scene where Dr. Mann takes over the Endurance, but he has an imperfect lock in the docking procedure, and then the Endurance starts spinning after the explosion. And you'd think that it's impossible for Matthew McConaughey or Cooper to be able to dock to a vehicle that's spinning in space so fast, but he matches the spin, and you see the camera angled and then as they're spinning at the same rate, at that angle, it looks like they're both not moving, but they really are spinning really fast. And somehow he manages to dock without the autopilot. He does it manually, especially spinning that fast. You'd think he'd knock out like his co-pilot does, but he's able to stay conscious and dock. And then the music comes in, and I just thought that was a really masterpiece of a scene. I felt like the score of this movie was really, really well done. Hans Zimmer is a great musician. All of his music is good, and it's superb in this movie as well.
Honestly, if I had to pick a favorite part, I picked the part where he goes through the black hole in the end, and he ends up in like it was the fifth dimension, and like he's tapping on that bookshelf that you see in the beginning of the movie, and it's like moving the books, and it's like that was him behind the bookshelf the whole time, and it's like it really like blew my mind. I was like, no way, like what is this? And it was really confusing, but it was so like cool. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like it's such a good movie.
Yeah, I like how at that scene, like you're kind of wondering how they're gonna save the humans back on Earth, or if they've just given up on them, and then everything like is tied back together. I mean, in the beginning, we have no idea how he gets these coordinates to NASA. Or Murphy's ghost, as she calls it, and the ghost was her own father in the future, and I thought that was
crazy.
That kind of just blew my mind, that scene. I mean, I don't even think I fully grasped what happened until I like researched, like you said, afterward, to try and figure out what it all was. But so basically, like as far as my knowledge of it, they called it a tesseract, and it was basically they or future humans who are able to like manipulate time and space using gravity, because gravity like transcends dimensions. They built the tesseract as like a three-dimensional version that allowed Cooper, who was just a human who couldn't process the 5 dimensions, to be able to process it, and that's how he was able to like move through time and interact with his daughter and then save the humans. I mean, I guess that's where the paradox comes into play, where people could say like, if Cooper, how could the future humans have created the Tesseract if they weren't able to get there in the first place because they were all left back on Earth and died? So there's kind of like a time lapse there, but I guess that's up for question with Christopher Nolan, or I'm not exactly sure. Maybe the humans that Dr. Brand was able to raise with their colony, they were the humans that created the Tesseract and then were able to go back and save their long-lost ancestors.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, there's so many like theories you can come up with and ideas, and it's just, you can interpret so many different ways, and it's like a dynamic movie, and I really like that element about it. So if you had to give it a score out of 10, what do you give it?
I never want to give a movie a 10 out of 10, because, I mean, but if I mean, I'd have to say it's pretty close. Like, for me at least, I found the movie really endearing, and I really like Christopher Nolan as a director. I thought the score for the music of the movie was fantastic. I mean, I'd have to say probably like a 9.5, like pushing 10 maybe.
I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 because I think it's one of the best movies I've ever seen, but if it had something in there where it kind of like tied together, it's like, oh, that's it, I think I would have given it a 10 out of 10, like one of the, probably the best movie I've ever seen, but like, because of the fact I had to go and research, like that doesn't take away from the fact that it's a fantastic movie, you should go watch it, but
definitely recommend to watch it if you haven't, at least.
I mean, if you love space, it's like, I'm a space nerd, I know Robbie is too, so like, I love the movie. I thought it was a fantastic movie.
Even if you're not into super scientific stuff, I mean, there's the whole like relationship between Cooper and Murphy, and the whole family dynamic, and that you can really connect to. I mean, any person who has a relationship with another human being will be able to connect in this movie. I mean, even Dr. Brand talks about how love is the one thing we can perceive that transcends time. We still love people even though they're dead, she says. So I feel like anybody could love this movie, especially with the acting being as it is. I mean, Anne Hathaway and Matthew McConaughey are both fantastic actors. So Yeah.
You have any final thoughts you wanna?
Final thoughts. I mean, I've already touched on this before. I've talked about the music. I love the soundtrack to this movie. I thought the visual effects were really up to par in this movie and pushing what we have at this point in time. Really setting the bar high for future movies. I'm excited to see what Christopher Nolan does moving forward. I think this is going to stay a standalone movie. I don't think he's going to make a sequel. I think that would kind of take away maybe this as a standalone, kind of just as its own thing. I think does its best. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about a sequel to this movie?
I think I agree. I think it should be a standalone. Like, I think the fact that it's a good and bad thing that it raises a lot of questions at the end. But I think it's one of those things that's up for interpretation. It's like, I mean, they could do a sequel, but I don't know what it would like. I mean, Murph is dead or
she
really
passed
old,
away basically.
but I think.
I mean, they could continue with Dr. Brand raising the colony of humans, and maybe Cooper eventually finds her. It kind of seems like maybe there was a romance going on between Cooper and Dr. Brand he flew to that planet to meet up with her. Maybe they're just because that was the only really person he knew from his own time. Because so many years had passed when he was in Gargantua in the black hole. But yeah, I think Christopher Nolan is just going to leave this as a standalone. It doesn't seem like it'll be a trilogy or anything. I mean, even Inception, if you haven't seen Inception, the ending is left really wide open, just like Interstellar was, but I don't see any sequel coming in for Inception, and that was released in 2010. So I really think that this is going to stay its own thing, and I think that's a good thing too. So thank you guys for listening to our movie review of Interstellar.